we'd like to welcome Robin Marchand from XLABS Global, who'll be talking about the collaboration between XLABS and the XLA Institute and the SIAM community. And if customer experience and XLAs are your thing, I should throw in a quick ITSMF commercial at this point and say that you can also hear Robin talking face to face at XLA 25 at the Imperial War Museum in Duxford on the 8th of July. That event is free to members, so do have a look on the website if you're interested in hearing a little bit more on that. But today Robin's talking specifically about the synergy between XLAs and SIAM, and with that I'm very pleased to hand over to you, Robin.
Yeah, thank you all. Just to check, is the screen right now?
I think we're still getting the thumbnails again. Could you try the other option where with your screens? I think that's it. Yeah, that's the one.
That's the one. Okay.
Yeah,
thank you.
That looks like
Sorry.
it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Well, good morning. My name is Robin Marchand. Michiel Boom is also in the call, but was not sure if he could join, so I will do the presentation. But Michiel, if you have suggestions or things to add, please let me know. My ambition for today is to explain a little bit the XLA Institute, but in general, that's just the basic, and then step into a little bit what is an XLA experience management and how can you relate it to SIAM, and how do we implement it together. So, and if there are questions, please let me know or in the chat, and then I can respond on it in the end, but it can also be during the presentation already. That's fine for me. Yeah. Well, the Institute, we started a little bit more than a year ago with the XLA Institute, and what we try to achieve is that we, a little bit the same as what SIAM Scopism tries to do with SIAM. We think that in experience management there is specific areas they are working with it. How can we combine that with each other, and how can we improve it and develop it together more into the market and come to something like a definition and a standard way, so that it will help everyone and that we really can bring the value of an XLA and experience management to the whole world, instead of that some of them will try and will succeed in it. But we think and we expect that it can be a broader thing that a lot of organizations can have a lot of value of. Well, we have a couple of founding members. These are here, and it helps us in many ways. It helps us in how they look to the market and how we can discuss with them about how they look to experience management. And it helps us to develop also the standardization and the certification programs and everything what's in it, what we need from an XLA perspective. What's the Institute for now? Well, we try to evangelize on experience management and the XLA. We do that because we see that we only have the experience management part we are experienced in. So we try to align that with other best practices. And that's what we do with SIAM. So it's very nice to see that there is a compendium and a chapter on our side who works together. And how can we bring that more and more into the market? And what I try to do today is a little bit explain also how experience management and SIAM can work together. We have a chapter team which is partly with experience management members and partly with SIAM experience members. And now there is also a compendium on the Scopism part, so now we can align that more and more. So how can we bring experience management in the SIAM concept and the other way around? Well, we do that for now with Scopism for SIAM, with ISM and with DASA. We have an education program. We are the scheme owner of the XLA Foundation and the practitioner courseware, and that you can follow by APMG ATOs. We have an active member involvement. Well, we're not so big as Scopism. It's very nice to see how what your journey is and how you grow. And in a way, we see Scopism also as a positive example for us. We are around 1,400 members. We are located. What you see is with experience management. There is in Brazil, XLA group that's really active, in the UK and in the Benelux. And we're starting this year into the US with some online events and webinar, where we could see that there is some traction starting now. And then we have also in Asia and Australia the first members that join our community. There is a NEN certification in the Netherlands for XLA experience management, and that will be developed in an ISO standard in this year. So together with all the ISO communities over the world, there is a work group who is developing now how can we define a standard for experience management within the XLA. And the ambition is to have that available, I think, the beginning of 26. So that's where we also aligned with our certification programs for individuals on a foundation and practitioner level. And we starting now with an XLA verified and XLA certification program for service integrators. And that was one of the assignments we received from our founding members in a way in the market, because they said we can't really prove that we are really working on experience management or on XLAs. And in what Gartner said is in 50-60% of the RFPs in the MSP kind of demand, then there is already a request for, do you support XLAs? But then there is not really a standard or a certification program on it. So that's what we developed, and we are now assessing the first service providers on the verified level, so that we have at least the same kind of definitions and that they have an owner on it. There are some specific requirements defined for that. And together with the market and with the member groups, we try to develop also a certification program next level for the end of this year. We have 3 chapters. So the standardization about what is experience management, what is an XLA, and how can you define it into the market. And that's related to the NEN and the ISO work group. We have a sourcing chapter started, because it's not only a provider thing, it's also a sourcing part from the corporate organizations to the market if they want to send out a request for proposal, these kind of things. How can we align with them more? And how can you also answer questions like, okay, it's maybe not a full contract in XLA, but we really like to get it into our agreement in a way with each other. So that's what we try to achieve on the sourcing part. And we have a SIAM chapter, and Harry and Michiel are part of that SIAM chapter. And we have developed now with a full team first white paper about how can you relate that SIAM and experience management to each other. And the white paper will be published next week. On the 12th of June, we have our event. Then there will be a presentation of the XLA framework for the measurement of service integration, and we show the white paper. So then after that, you can download it on the XLA Institute website. So that's the combination what we try to make with Scopism. And it's very nice to see that in 3-4 months what we achieved already with each other. So that's great. Then a little bit in depth, some expertise about what is now an XLA and what is experience management. So what you see is, and that's all in a way already from Pine and Gilmore, is that we're moving from a services organization more and more to an experience organization. And within the IT and within enterprises, it's getting there more and more now. But if you look to the B2C, business to consumer, it's already there for a longer period. But that's most of the times always how it's moving into the market, more first on the consumer, and then there will be a huge difference into your internal organization and how it is as a consumer in the overall market. So we see that we need to get not only deliver a good service, you see that you need to have also a good experience. And the difference in general is that we are more focusing on the outcome instead of the output. And what you see is in an SLA is mostly part on we delivered this in the time we agreed with each other. And outside in, we try to achieve something about, okay, how was the experience? How can we make that really measurable? And how can we improve the experience? And sometimes it's related to the SLA, the services, and sometimes not. But in the end, you want to have really the impact to the user, and not only to make him happy, but also to have more value of the services that he uses from you internally into your organization. So is he really happy with the digital workplace? Is he really happy with and what doesn't work quite properly on those servers? And sometimes you're not aware of it, and you can solve it very easily. So that's what we try to do with the XLA and experience management. So it's really the rounded approach within organizations to identify, design, and manage the experience of the full services. So it's outside in. How can you really bring it and make it measurable to the organizations about how these services experienced? And what we try to do is really to shift the focus from fulfilling the service targets to aligning services to the fulfillment of the goals of their user. And it can be a customer, it can be an employee internally. So that's the moving from service-centric to more human-centric outcomes. Is it really what they need? Because if you look to in the healthcare, we have now a project that they said, well, we are too busy with all the administrative IT services topics, and it costs us too much time, and it doesn't work properly. And so we are really doing healthcare is 50% of my time. And that needs to be improved to 17 or 80%. Now with measuring based on the XLA, more and more we are developing a methodology so that they see, okay, this service doesn't work properly. The application is I need to restart it again. It's not fully aligned with my process. How can we bring it more in line with them? So these kind of examples we try to implement and make it really measurable so that you can be sure of what it is now and how you can improve it in the future. Well, an XLA, what is it? An XLA has a service provider and a consumer, but that doesn't mean that it needs to be an external service provider. We have also organizations now internally that said enterprise service management. We really want to deliver our fully services, not only IT, but also onboarding from an HR perspective for facilities. We want to be understanding about how this full service will be experienced, and if it's meet the nice to have or must have requirements from the user internally, because it's very hard to get new resources into your organizations. And sometimes if you know how you can improve kind of those services, then you can improve. But you first need to know that the experience is not what we expect from each other. So it's not that we said throw the SLA away. No, don't do that. The SLA is very important to get that in, but it's more related to how you delivered, if you deliver the service in time, but not how it is experienced and what's the outcome that we expect with each other. So that's what we try to add on it from an XLA perspective. Well, how does the framework look? So we really look from outside in to it instead of inside out. So that means that you want to understand the business impact of a service. You define different experience outcomes, and those experience ambitions you define with each other. And we have a model based on experience data, X data in this picture. O data is the operational data, and that's in the ITIL world or SIAM world mostly, that it's the ticketing, the request or incident data. And we have the technical information about applications or components in a chain that are not performing well, and what's the impact of those not performing from a technical perspective in relation to the experience. So we really combine this. So we're not gonna copy the SLA that's partly in the O data already defined, but we relate it to what does it do with the experience, and does it have a positive impact or a negative impact to the experience, so that you also know that in the end, instead of that you have no incidents at all and you think the experience is quite well, or you have a lot of incidents but maybe there is less impact to the experience from a user perspective. Well, this is the framework that's also is used by the NEN standard, and will be used also to bring this into an ISO standard. And if you look to the yellow parts on the left and the right, then you see also from a SIAM perspective, it's very important to collaborate. And this is one of the topics that we really can align with each other from a SIAM perspective. And we're not gonna do the governance part that's in the SIAM described quite well, but how can you add something from an experience perspective? And also the experience of the collaboration of each other can be measured in this model. So it's not only into the end service, but it's also to have different suppliers in a chain. And do we really work together in a way that we feel comfortable, all of us, and that we can really make the difference for the end experience, for the full service that we deliver. How does it work? Here on the right, you see if we really define the service experience and the ambition, then we can fill in which sentiment data, X data, which O data we really need, and which technical data. So we have a best practice with the library of more than 150 different type of XLAs. So we don't start from scratch. We always start with, okay, what do you want to achieve? What kind of service is it? And then we can take the first step already from the library about, okay, then these sentiment, operational and technical data is what you need. Then we can investigate and into the organization if those information is available. So then you look to products like an IT service management tool. Sentiment depends on where you get your sentiment off. That can be from different kind of tools. And technically, it depends on the type of service that you deliver. So is it an application like Salesforce, then you will get some information from the Salesforce log files in a way. And if it's for a digital workplace, then you can get it from the Intune and the Microsoft directly, or from products like Nexthink or Riverbed, to get a very clear understanding about what is really from a technical perspective happening and what will be the impact for the user from an experience perspective. Well, that's what you see in the Sankey diagram in the left. So we really relate those three X, O, and T data to each other, so that you know from left to right what the impact will be, but also from right to left what the impact will be. So if there is really happening something from a KPI on the right, is there really impact now directly from the from an experience perspective, or is there not really a lot of impact? Because some of the incidents, they are not interested from an experience perspective, and some of them are huge related to the experience of the full service. So that's really what we implement in a platform, so that you really can monitoring it, well, not daily. This is more something you do weekly or monthly. So you gather information from a sentiment perspective out of your user group. You gather it together with the O data and the T data, and then you will see a little bit how it works overall. Well, what we see in examples now where we implement it in the organizations is the watermelon effect. Well, just to explain it quickly, it's green from outside, it's red inside, and and that can happen sometimes. And that means that you don't have any incidents on the servers. If you look to the digital workplace, for example, and the user need to restart every week his desktop or laptop because it doesn't perform quite well, he will not raise a ticket for these kind of things. But if you look through the T data, then we can see that that will happen, or that there's an automatically reboot, or that there is a blue screen, or that there is, well, those kind of T data. That's what we gather. And on the other hand, you can relate it to the experience. So is the experience from an end user perspective, is the trend downwards, is the trend upwards, and why is that? So that's what we try to get achieved with an XLA, is that you can combine those three data sources also with each other to have a good understanding about what's really the experience. Well, we define that within different XLAs where we really design the XONT based on the best practice and the library, and then we can measure it directly in a way. And after the first month, you see then a score. Well, I made one of those blue, so the overall score was 74.25, but you could see that the sentiment score was 50, and the process score was 85, and the technical score was 71. So that means at least that you know it from the period on this month, and then the trend is why is the sentiment what it is, and then you can drill down more on those specific data which you have available to show what's really the reason why the sentiment is 50. And this is a score between 0 and 100. So 50 is normally we have an ambition of 70, 75 overall. Well, you can say now, okay, 74 is good enough for this XLA, but that is it. But if you look to the sentiment, then it's 50 is a little bit too low. So what can we do to improve that part? And then you can drill down, and then you can make some improvements you can define, and that can be then in the full processes of change management or problem management be implemented into an organization. And in the end, you can see if there's really a positive or negative impact of the XLA of that specific service. So that's how we try to do that. From a SIAM perspective, if you look to what do we get? Did we get back also from the SIAM experienced team? They said, well, one of the topics is lack of unified objectives. How can the service providers more focusing on their specific part to perform on that instead of the overall? There is in the communication, if you have a lot of people, a lot of different suppliers, then it's difficult to communicate quite well with them and get everyone on the same page and positive in the discussion. The dependencies are huge. And accountability and transparency are some of the topics. There are a lot of them. So I said, I put also on the top of this sheet some, but that's what we get back from SIAM, the SIAM world in a way as well. These are topics that are our challenges. On the other hand, we get some challenges. If you look to experience management, is that there is a lack of empathy and understanding that experience needs to be add on. It's not only I delivered the quiet service this month, but is it really, could you use it in the way that it really helped you by doing your job? Or was it terrible, but the SLA was met because it did it the whole day, and it did it on the moments that we agreed with each other. And when I phoned to the service desk, they helped me in time. But really is it really helping me to do my job quite well? No. And these kind of things need to be more into the service, and need to be more in the process about improving those services. So that's the lack of empathy. It's more a reactive approach and experience. If they're really not happy, well, then we need to do something. What we think is that it's more over time. It's during the month you need to manage this, so then you can more come to a proactive part, and that can help also from a SIAM perspective, because if you can see that the trend is going down, then you can have with all your suppliers, you can have a meeting also about, hey, what is the reason why this is? You ask some of those key users in a session to explain it more to all of them, and then you can define some appropriate actions or improvements, and then you can measure and monitoring if that will be also what you will see by the performance of the XLA. And there is a lot of disconnected metrics, because if there are no incidents, then a lot of organizations, they have the basic attitude about, okay, then the service was quite well, but you don't know if the service is quite well from an experience perspective, because not everything is raised by a ticket. So if there is no ticket available, how do you know then that the service was quite well experienced, at least? Okay, you know that there was no the SLA was met because you had no incidents, but if there really there is more to get if you look to the experience, the O data and the T data together, and if you combine that, that will give you more value. And then this time the data is available, but it's not connected with each other. So if you can combine it more, that will bring a lot of value, I think, to SIAM and to the overall service what we like to deliver to organizations and the users. So what we try to achieve, I think, with each other, what we can help is enhance the collaboration. The collaboration is part of the framework. So how can we also measure that in a combination of different supplies together? Are we all happy in this ecosystem to perform as good as we can? Prioritize on value, because sometimes we are measuring and monitoring and try to improve topics, but if you look to the experience part, there is no impact from an experience perspective. So are we doing the right things? And maybe we can prioritize better if we know what the impact from an experience perspective will be for some of those topics. And what we try to do is more and more to improve those services. So if you look to some of the customers now, they have really, in the development team, in the product teams, every month there is an hour session about what was the performance of, what was the XLA score of last month of our service, and what were the main topics, why it is what it is. And if you can get that into your mindset, into your organization, that will help, because that will then say, okay, hey, this is strange, because the product, I think we can solve those kind of bad experience or those kind of topics. So that's what we, I think, what we try to achieve. And this is, in a way, the combination, what we try to achieve also into organization is the Gungo model. And if you look from it logically satisfied and dissatisfied from the vertical line, that's what we try, what we do with an SLA. And then we think if we deliver the SLA quite well, then we are more in the green part. And what we try to add on it for the full service and the way you work together is the emotional horizontal line. And that means that you also have an understanding about, okay, are we really in line with each other? And do we really have the impact of the service? And does the organization, the users, do they also have the feeling that you understand what they need for that service, and that you try to improve it? And this is one of the examples in the system integrator domain, that sometimes it's the customer is not happy, and after 3 years they will not extend or they will not renew. But this SLA was delivered very well, but there was not really understanding about the impact from an XLA perspective. So if we can add that to it, I think that will help the communication between the provider and the consumer more and more. That can be internally between the internal IT and the business, and it can be externally. But that's what we try to achieve. Well, as last, the white paper of the XLA Institute together with SIAM will be released next week. So if you like to receive that, go to the website next week and then you can download it. And what the ambition is more and more together with Scopism is to get this more and more integrated, and we only doing the experience part. That's what we try to get as good as possible and to improve as much as possible into the world. And how can we integrate that in the SIAM way, in the service integration way, together with Scopism. So that's a little bit our ambition and goal. Are there questions?
That's excellent. Thank you very much, Robin, for that. I was just having a look on the chat. Barry, did you get the answer you were looking for to your first question there?
Oh,
Mostly. Okay. I don't know if you wanted to say any more on that one, Robin, on your experiences of ensuring that XLAs in SIAM ecosystems reflect the end-to-end user experience rather than just becoming a patchwork of siloed SLAs.
You may answer this part of the... Sorry, now I see the screen. What are your experience for? Yeah, exactly. My experience is sometimes it's going the right way, and there's really an XLA, and the ambitions are really to get that more on the table and get the insights of the experience of that service. And sometimes you see that it's more it's a next level SLA in a way. And that's not what we think that is the solution. But I see Michiel, maybe you can add something on it.
Yeah, thank you, Robin. Hey, Barry, thanks for the question. So I think it's a great question. And what we've seen in practical reality during the last 5 to 8 years is that, the market has been asking for experience management. And we, as a community or an industry, seem to approach the topic of experience management and how you actually measure it in different ways. And that's why I think the NAN standard, which is a Dutch standard, and it's becoming, let's say, elevated to an ISO standard in the coming half year. That's why that standard is important to use, because that actually prevents an XLA to be masked as some sort of SLA. It actually aims to measure experience and satisfaction, albeit linked to measurable things like KPIs and SLAs. It doesn't stand on itself, like Robin explained earlier, but it is a separate measurement on qualitative experience. And by that, you prevent it from just becoming a patchwork, like you say, but it also ensures some kind of implied innovation, because the desired experience is going to change over time. Meaning, if you ask somebody what they expect today, they will give you a different answer from when that question will be asked in 2 years' time. So that all should be addressed by applying the framework that's explained in the Dutch NAN standard. So I hope this is mostly let's say, an invitation to get a look at that standard and work from that. Hope that answers the question, Barry.
Yeah, thanks, Michiel, and thanks for your exactly. It's an over time thing, and that's very important to understand also with experience. So what the experience now is, I read an article about that some of the SLAs didn't change for 5 or 10 years, and that was a high percentage in a way. So they kept the same. And maybe for an SLA, that's okay. I don't want to have a discussion about that, but for an XLA, you can't, because the experience, what's now is normal to have, or what you is maybe very good to have, will be different in 6 to 9 to 12 months. And then you need to be aware of that so that you can improve it from an experience perspective, the service again.